Sonic branding is a topic that a lot of people agree is beneficial, but no one can really agree what it actually is. So, for our purposes today, Sonic branding is anywhere a brand can use sound, music, or audio in relation to itself or to a customer. This can take form of marketing items like jingles, audio logos, or app notification sounds to more complex ideas like designing the sound of an electric car or the playlist at a retail location. A brand is going to form around a business whether they want it to or not. A brand is just a brand's reputation and what separates one from another. So it can be a giant mega corporation, a mom and pop shop. And if you really want to feel like you are living in this techno capitalist dystopian society, you and I are also brands. So even if you aren't conscious about it, the things you share online, the way you walk, the way you talk, what you wear, and more are all part of your brand. Smarter businesses design their brand and are very intentional with how their brand is used, where it is used, and what it sounds like. They want people to know who they are. So you can think of a brand like an identity. The problem that Sonic branding solves then is these businesses will often spend all this time, effort, and money curating and managing their visual identity, which their logos, their colors, their fonts, what language they use in their copy, how their space is physically designed, what their ads look like. But then they just kind of default to whatever music the owner likes or what they feel is a vibe or whatever's trending. They'll pull the same tired tracks from libraries that all their competitors are using. They'll use whatever the top trending reel sound on Instagram or TikTok is. And they'll do it without much thought. If you really want your brand to stick out and be memorable, why wouldn't you have a consistent sonic identity across your platforms? And why wouldn't you want to use sound, which you are already using much more intentionally and effectively than whatever everyone else is doing? So, a majority of the viewers of this channel are composers for games and film. So, let's kind of talk about that in terms of a video game score. The new Mario Brothers movie just came out, and I loved it, first off. But there's something that's significant. Nintendo has a really strong Sonic brand. Their themes are iconic for generations. People know what Nintendo sounds like. So much so that they'll listen to music and be like, this sounds like a Mario Kart track, or this sounds like it would be in a Nintendo game. So, the first Mario movie had this big complaint where Mario has a rich Sonic history with a lot of great themes and a lot of beautiful, incredible music. Yet they're defaulting to the same needle drops that every funny kids movie is doing. Like the Mario Kart scene, why were they not using Mario Kart music? This new movie, however, mined their archives and used all the deep themes, even some deep cuts. And if you're interested in it, by the way, I did interview one of the music arrangers from the Mario Brothers movie, Kenny Wood. I have an interview on my channel. But that is a Sonic brand, using your music for your purposes. You are building your IP and you are building a catalog and you are using your sound to tell your story. So it makes so much more sense that the Mario Brothers movie used Mario music than using music from the 80s that is not relevant to Mario at all. On the other end of the spectrum, we have Star Wars. Now, for over 30 years, Star Wars has been defined singularly by John Williams. This neo-romantic, jazzy, western sound that's paying homage to classic Hollywood. We had other sounds like the Cantina Band, but for the most part, there was an expectation that Star Wars meant romantic orchestra. Well, how do we live in the Star Wars universe and bring a new composer in, or a new sound and tell a new story without straying too far from the Star Wars brand? That is an incredibly difficult thing to do, but Ludwig Göransson did it for The Mandalorian. And it works. You hear it and you instantly hear Star Wars because we're staying in the same space, the same aesthetic space of westerns, classic sounds, without really going too far in a different direction. We're basing it on the feeling of the brand, not just the aesthetic. He was able to pull this off not by copying John Williams or by doing something John Williams would have done, but he went to the heart of what Star Wars was, a western, and wrote music in that style that still felt like Star Wars rather than going completely new direction. And he towed that line perfectly and made it work. So, enough about film, let's talk brands. Every brand has an identity and a personality. We can think of them like characters or archetypes. Maybe your brand is playful. Well, that would have a different sonic identity than one that is more serious. What would a hero brand sound like versus a wise old mentor? And like traditional media scoring, these characters can have unique themes to convey who they are, what their goals are. Nike's Just Do It brand music will likely be more driven and upbeat than Apple's Think Different. So, by designing these sonic identities intentionally, we give people brand clarity, which is super important, while also making them more memorable, which means they'll stand out better too. So, if you want your brand to feel significant and special and not just be another brand in a sleeve slop, music will be the first thing to help you get there. Sonic branding is more than just a piece of music. It's a whole identity system that comes along with it. So we can have assets like a brand anthem, which is like the main theme of a brand. So the Home Depot theme, which gets that blue collar rugged feel. Or we could adopt a piece of music like United Airlines does with Rhapsody in the Blue. They use that piece of music consistently in all their branding across all their ads, so it works and it's not just a licensed track. The problem with that is another brand can just as easily use it and start diluting their brand. But by staying true to your brand's identity and values and having your music be consistent, you create an authentic experience with your target audience. If you want to reach a specific group of people, having music that connects with that group is the fastest and easiest way to say, hey, we are the same. But inconsistency leads to something more like, how do you do, fellow kids? So let's consider Hot Topic for a second. Yes, that Hot Topic. You might have Hot Topic and look at it, be like, all right, aesthetically, we're this thing. What if Sabrina Carpenter was a sound of Hot Topic? I don't think that would go very well. It is not their target audience. She is not the sound of the brand. But if My Chemical Romance was playing, it's a congruency that just makes sense. So, like visual branding, we can create a system of ideas and guidelines for sonic branding. Some assets, like a logo, might be reused, but other stuff may need to be generated over time and by different people. So, having a consistent and clearly mapped out set of guidelines of what your brand sounds like, what the sound palette, tone, and vibe are, as well as why, can be a great asset to ensure consistency and unity across all touch points in time, regardless of the size of your team. So some sonic assets that you might include in a sonic branding package include sonic branding guidelines, brand anthems, jingles, sonic logos, UI sounds like user interface, which is like sound effects, apps, ringtones, doorbells, hold messages. The product sounds themselves, like if you have an electronic doorknob, does it sound like a lock? Does it sound like a door shutting? Like what sound plays when these things are activated? I mentioned cars earlier. What does your car engine sound like? Another thing is who is doing your ads? This is a very big one. There was a story of a lawyer who specializes in sexual assault. And he was a man, middle-aged or a little older. And when he started running ads with a woman as the voice, and saying women will answer the phone and you will speak to a woman, he had a much higher rate of success gaining new clients because these women felt more comfortable talking to women than to him. Makes sense. Using sound to connect with people strategically. How would a brand use it once they have these assets? One thing I like to do for my clients is I'll create templates in Canva. I'll write a brand anthem for them and then create social media templates where all they have to do is drag and drop and change the text on top. That saves them time, it makes it much more efficient and much more consistent, which they can use on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Anywhere they're posting video content, especially short form, they can use these templates. I'll even deliver different stems and variations of these brand anthems, so they have a whole variety of tracks they can use. Another thing is, this is a big one that people overlook, but walk-up music at events. If your team is involved with like giving speeches, keynote addresses, accepting awards, or anything where music is being played at an event related to you, why are you letting your team members pick what music they're being walking up to represent your company? They should represent the music they walk up to should be your brand, your messaging. and it's a great opportunity to get your brand out there. Hold music. If your brand is something that puts people on hold a lot, they don't need to listen to Opus One. They could listen to your sound, company ringtone on your phone. You can use it at trade shows, events, underscores for ads. This is all just like one track too. You also have jingles, sonic logos, and so much more. So going back to the why of sonic branding, sound and music is the easiest, cheapest, and fastest way to change how people perceive a brand. On top of that, people can't turn off their ears. It exists in spaces where visuals can't, which is kind of where we're moving to a more screenless world. And what I think it is most interesting, music and sound changes behavior and perception. It is functional. So beyond just being an identity, sound conveys a ton of information. Our ears are sensitive enough to tell the difference between hot and cold water being poured. We can even use sounds to make chips taste crispier. Sound has a practical function besides just an aesthetic. I worked in the brewery industry a while, and I'm actually working on a book about the relationship between food and music, so this is a bit of my area of expertise. There was a study done in supermarkets where they played French music and German music, and they noticed on days where they were playing French music, they sold more French wine. When they played German music, they sold more German wine. You can use music to prime people to create specific choices. You can use music to create a higher turnover rate in your restaurant. Or you can use it to slow down the people, your customers, and ultimately increase more money in your sales location, like a store. You can target specific audiences. One bar I worked at brought in this whole team, repainted the place, redecorated the place, changed the menu, tried to change the entire vibe of the place. But the owner was locked into 90s ska music. Now, it's 2026. When you're trying to attract a young crowd of 21 to 25-year-olds at past 11 p.m. and up to 2 in the morning at a brewery, which is already hard, you want to appeal to that crowd. Playing 90s ska music, we would get a lot of girls walking in, looking at the place, thinking this is cool, hearing the music, and then turning out and leaving. It was not the vibe. It is so easy to just change what music you're using in your ads or in your location and appeal to a new audience, specifically an audience you're looking for, than to turn them away because it doesn't match who they are as people. So anyway, what does a strong sonic brand even look like? A strong sonic brand is not just cool music or a jingle. It is a whole system. It conveys a specific emotional quality. Like, we're not just talking happy music. We're talking it is warm, human, and reassuring. A strong sonic brand is instantly recognizable. But at the same time, it is consistent and flexible. We're not locked into we have to use this one track for a million purposes. We have an idea, we have a system, we know what will work, we know what our brand is. So if we were to venture out and say, hey, I want to try on this new shirt today, we know what that shirt looks like on us and if it's in our style, so to speak. It also it avoids being dependent on trends. It is a long-term strategy, not a short-term, right-now moment. A good sonic strategy, a good sonic brand also reinforces the brand values. Going back to the Home Depot theme, that rugged blue-collar feel works for Home Depot because that's the kind of people that shop at Home Depot. But let's say Home Depot was playing like Japanese spa music. It might not be the same effect. It may relax the target audience, it may make them feel good, but it's not their value as a brand. And perhaps the most important point of what a strong sonic brand looks like, it is documented and it is repeatable. If I'm running your sonic identity and something happens to me, I die, I move to a different country, my computer blows up, how do you maintain your brand? You need to know what it is, and you need to know how to repeat it for your next ad, your next venture, your next location. What makes your brand you, and how do you live it? In the same exact way that you have a logo, and you have a style guide, and you have your hex values for your brand colors, and you know what fonts you have to use, you need the same strategy for your music and sound for your brand. So a strong sonic brand is recognizable, it is emotionally consistent, and is a full sound system that scales across every place a brand can be heard. Now, again, this video is mostly targeted for composers. I feel like I'm speaking to brands right now because that's usually how I speak, and I apologize if I'm getting a little confused with the audience. But when we're making a Sonic brand, the typical process looks very similar to writing a film score or writing a video game score. The first thing we want to do is find what we're actually going for. So if we were doing a film, I would read the script. In this case, I would make a mood board. I would discover what the brand's story is, who they are, what's their personality. I would create a playlist of all the music that might fit of what we're going for. I would try to do an audit of what we've also done historically with the brand. What ad music have they used? What do we play on location? What's our hold music? Is there any Sonic touch points that we have been using but maybe not even aware of? We might find a through line for the brand already that we can build upon. We want to identify all of the touch points where the brand interacts with customers with sound. So if there's an app, if there's an in-person location, if they have hold music, if they're talking to people one-on-one, if they're at events, if they're playing ads on the radio or on TikTok or whatever. We want to know every place the brand is using sound. We also want to look for unique possibilities. So let's say they are in control of a display at a grocery store. Are they playing thunder and sound when their vegetables are getting washed? So going back to my experience in the beer world, let's say you are at a beer festival. How do you get people's attention? Well, beer is 90% water. And the best brewers are making their own water profiles, which means they're adjusting the minerals and everything in the water so that the beer tastes as good as possible. If you're at a festival where you're not allowed to use speakers at your table, but every brewery is trying to get people to come to their table and try their beer, what can you do? How can you use sound? One thing that actually works really cool is the sound of water. Beer is made of water. You can set up a pump with a clear pipe going through it, or you could tint it for beer color, and put a bottle of water or a bucket on something on top, so it looks like it's effortlessly pouring, like forever, continuously pouring. Now, this looks like a cool display, but that sound of rushing water will get people to turn heads. You hear water like a waterfall. What's that? It cuts through. It's different. It's ear-catching. It's not just eye-catching. You can find strategies like this in marketing, so it's not just branding, to use sounds to help grow your brand. But anyway, the very last step of doing Sonic branding is to strategize and to plan. You need to understand when, where, and why to use audio, and that's just as important as having audio to use. If you just delivered to a client a whole list of Sonic assets, but they don't know what to do with them, you just wasted their time and their money. Anyway, this is the first video this month that I'm going to be doing on Sonic branding. I have a lot coming. I have a lot of scripts to do. If you're interested in learning more about Sonic branding, check this out. Also subscribe to my Sonic branding specific channel, Electric Raindrop Audio, which is my Sonic branding agency. Anyway, I will see you for the next one, and thank you.